Hey, what's up, everybody? It's rock and roll comedian Don Jameson, That Metal Show, Rockstrap, International Spy, and Master Chef. You are hanging out with the hooligans, those YouTube guys.
You wanted the best. Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage.
Talking KISS.
Welcome to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric Podcast. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Little Angel.
Yes, you are, just missing your little halo. Welcome to our version of As the KISS World Turns, where we discuss KISS current events, rumors, news, and interviews with current and past members. Strap in, crank it up, and let's talk KISS. Well, hooligans, if you haven't noticed, Father Rocco is not with us.
Where is he?
He had his surgery yesterday, December 11th, and I'm happy to report he came through the surgery fine and on his way to recovering. But he will be down for a week or two, so his sister, our little angel, is sitting in for him today and lending her expertise to our topic. Gene Simmons and his big blabbermouth opening his trap and stupid falling out all over the place. For those of you new to the podcast or who do not know the details, Ace Frehley, lead guitarist from KISS from 1973 to 1982 and 1996 to 2002, was by all accounts the heartbeat of our iconic band. He died on October 16th, approximately 2 weeks after suffering a fall in his new northern New Jersey home studio. After his death, all three surviving original members of KISS attended the funeral services. During the KISS Cruise Landlocked event in Las Vegas this past November, Paul Stanley led a moment of silence before KISS kicked off their acoustic set. This past weekend, December 6th and 7th, the original members of KISS were in Washington, D.C. to receive their Kennedy Center honors, which will air on CBS on December 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Well, Gene, of course, there was a lot of press, and Gene gave an interview to the New York Post, and the interview reads as follows. KISS frontman Gene Simmons blamed bad decisions for his friend and fellow bandmate Ace Frehley's death. The band's co-founder condemned Frehley's substance abuse, suggesting it was to blame for the guitarist's fatal fall down the stairs in his northern New Jersey home studio. He refused advice from people that cared about him, including yours truly, to try to change his lifestyle, in and out of bad decisions, falling down the stairs. I'm not a doctor. Doesn't kill you. There may have been other issues, and it breaks my heart, Simmons told the Post on Saturday. The saddest thing, you reap what you shall sow, unfortunately, the singer 76 added, also referencing Frehley's struggles with alcoholism. However, Frehley had been sober for 20 years before his death. Simmons also opened up about the guitarist's private funeral services on October 22nd. It breaks my heart. Peter Criss, our founding drummer, Paul, and myself went to the funeral. Open casket, he said, calling it heartbreaking and sad. Saddest of all, perhaps, is that Ace just couldn't stay alive long enough to sit there proudly at the Kennedy Center and listen to, I can't even tell you who's going to come out, really impressive people, just to say how much KISS meant to them, and what can you say? Sad. Now, Little Angel.
Yes,
I heard this and lost my mind.
I did too. Completely.
Then I went to all the different social media groups that I belong to and lost my mind again. Then I listened to Eddie Trunk's radio show on Monday, December 8th, which airs on Sirius XM, and I lost my mind an additional time.
Well, he was losing his mind.
Now, to be clear and transparent, I will say on December 10th, Gene Simmons issued an apology on his X account, which we will get to later in the show. I was sitting here a couple mornings ago reading the apology and deciding if we should scrap this entire segment after lining up our esteemed expert guest and outlining all of my thoughts on this. I decided to hell with it. The world holds me accountable for things that I did so long ago I don't even remember doing them, and that's okay. But if it's okay for me to be held accountable, then it sure as hell should be okay to hold Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley or any other celebrity accountable for their actions. And so here we are. So let's get into this and see if we can make any sense of it and see if maybe we can try to educate even just one person in our audience. What I say in this segment is my opinion. It is mine and only mine and should not reflect negatively on the Hooligan Nation podcast in any way. That hooligan should give you a hint that I may piss people off in this little segment here.
Gene pissed a bunch of people off as well, so it's okay.
Just to make you all aware, although I play an idiot on this podcast sometimes, I don't really talk about my past life or career at all. Usually the simple reason is, why would the hooligans care? But I think it's relevant for this topic. So here's where I'm coming from. I was a firefighter and a member of the rescue squad for approximately 10 years. I was a police officer for approximately 25 years. I was an advanced first aid and CPR instructor during my career, and was also very involved in my police department's initiative to utilize Narcan, a life-saving medication to victims of opioid overdoses. So I know a little about this story from a couple different angles, but I brought an expert in anyway because, well, we are overachievers here at the Hooligan Nation podcast. So, Little Angel, can you share with us your training and expertise as it is relevant to this story?
I've been in healthcare. Well, actually, I was in EMS as well. So I've been in healthcare and around things since 1993. Became a nurse in 1998. Nurse practitioner in 2023. Did critical care and yeah, so been around this for a very long time.
So you have some experience with head injuries?
Yes.
Do you have some experience with fall victims?
Yes.
And do you have some experience with addiction?
Yes.
Okay. So is it safe to say that between the two of us combined, we probably know more about addiction and injuries than the illustrious Gene Simmons does?
I would think so.
You would. I would too. If I'm an expert of anything, I'm an expert of knowing that Gene Simmons is not an expert. And directly to Gene, I lived and worked through the war on drugs, and we lost. It didn't work. And it simply didn't work because an addict doesn't want to be an addict. There are victims. Now, they are usually victims of their own circumstances, but they are victims nonetheless. Throwing them in jail cells and treating them like criminals will not and did not help them, the situation, or our society in any way. My esteemed medical expert, do you agree with my statement on addiction?
I do, and I think one of the shocking things that when he said this is he had close relationships, obviously, with Ace, and all the music industry that he's been with his whole life. He's had multiple friends that's had addiction problems. He's been around it. He should know better that addiction is not something that you say, "Oh, okay, I'm just going to stop today," and it's that easy. It's a lifetime challenge. So that's number one. You claim to love Ace, and you knew he was sober for 20 years. You know, you should honor his memory and honor his family. And, regardless of all the issues they've had between them, he should still, he had a relationship with him and there was love there. So he should have honored them and respected him to keep his mouth shut.
Oh, Gene Simmons keep his mouth shut?
Just because you haven't suffered the problem, again, he knew enough people around. He should know what addiction is.
He should. Well, I'm sure Gene knows what addiction is. I'm just not sure that
Drugs wasn't his choice of addiction.
right, and I'm not sure that he understands the whole thing, but he also probably never spent 5 minutes trying to figure out the ins and outs of addiction either, which in my opinion, before you go out publicly and say something stupid, you should at least know at least a little bit about the topic that you're going to say something stupid about. Now, look, I don't know where you stand with this, but I won't sit here and tell you with 100% certainty that Ace was not intoxicated or inebriated in any way. And I don't think he was, but I won't testify to it because, as far as I know, the toxicology report hasn't come back yet. It's not like I was close personal friends with Ace, but I will say that multiple of his close personal friends have come out since Gene's statement and said absolutely 100% he was sober, and he had been sober since I think like September 2006. He did not make this a secret in any way. He was proud of his sobriety and talked about it often in interviews. Also, if you're an undereducated KISS fan, when Ace finally got sober in 2006, his daughter was really a large part of the reason why he got sober. So it was kind of a personal accomplishment, let's say, for him.
And to stay sober for her.
Correct.
To her. So yeah.
Let's get into the details of his death and the autopsy report, which we have scoured the internet and found. The details of his death, I guess, are still a little gray. He fell in the studio. Supposedly he fell, he went to the hospital, and he was released and he was okay. And then he went back to his home studio and he fell again. And it was the second fall that was the big fall, and that's the one that ultimately ended his life. Now, my esteemed medical expert, do you have the autopsy report?
It's right in front of me.
Okay, can you go over the details of the autopsy report without giving away too much? Because I don't want to exploit Ace. Like, everybody that watches this podcast already knows the autopsy report is out there on the internet. If they want to go find out all the gory details, they can. We just want to bring out the details that pertain to this stupid comment by Gene to refute it and make him hopefully feel like more of an idiot than he should feel today.
So the gist of the autopsy was basically it was from trauma injuries to his head, and how they see that was that there was multiple sites of bleeding and hematomas, which is bleeding under the skin, blood collections under the skin. And they did try to evacuate that bleeding, but when there's multiple areas of that, what happens is all that blood builds up and there's no place to go in the brain. They try to, again, evacuate it, put drains, but it kind of gets stuck there and your brain will shift and herniate, and you get brain death. So that's what looks like happened. And there was a left temporal bone fracture, and when you break bones, they bleed too. So that's why the bleeding continued. Or that's why there was so much blood in there as well. So it's all very hard because you can't see it on the outside. It's all in there and it's a very confined space. That all makes, brain injuries so difficult to survive. And even if you survive, you have a lot of people will have, the traumatic brain injuries for life and have some alterations in their personalities because of that. But yeah, so multiple areas on the right and the left side of his head, there was traumatic spots and bleeding, and also the frontal lobe in the back. So obviously there was a tumble down the stairs and hit multiple areas. Besides that, on the autopsy report also showed multiple bruisings on the legs on both sides, the right and left. So this was definitely obviously a very traumatic event and difficult. Again, to read the autopsy report, it was a difficult injury.
All right, my first question that I'm sure at least one hooligan out there is going to be thinking of right now is, what is herniation of the brain?
That's when there's so much blood fluid will push the brainstem and the brain and kind of, and that causes the brain death.
Knock it off center, pretty much. And do I have this correctly, that your brain sits in your skull surrounded by fluid normally, but your skull does not give at all as an adult, right? So it's hard bone. by the time you're an adult.
Correct. So
So
when you
when your brain swells or you add fluid like blood into the brain cavity, at some point you're pretty much going to overflow and start choking your brain out.
it's not yet, there's no place to go.
Right. So that is usually, and I don't know if they did this or not, but that is usually when they start drilling holes in your skull.
That's what they did. Yeah.
Or, and I've actually seen this happen, they cut the top of the skull off so the brain has room to swell, and they literally put your skull like next to your head.
Well,
And
sometimes, I'm
if
sorry.
and when you heal, they put your skull back on, the top of your skull back on, and put it all back together.
A lot of times what they'll do is they'll put it like into your abdominal wall, like into the fat in your to keep it
Your skull? The top of your skull? Really? I didn't know that.
safe.
That's interesting. Is that kind of like us putting the squeaky toy in Father Rocco's incision? Is that kind of the same idea?
Kind of like that, yeah. Kind of make a little pocket, and yeah.
All right. We will debut the Father Rocco squeaky toy when he comes back.
Absolutely.
Just so you hooligans are aware, the autopsy report was certified by Frederick J. DiCarlo, MD, PhD, Deputy Medical Examiner, performed the external examination on 10/17/2025, and the report was submitted on 11/6/2025, and the cause of death, the official cause of death from an actual medical doctor, was blunt trauma injuries of the head due to a fall. Manner of death was accidental. So our esteemed expert, Little Angel,
Yes.
is it safe to say that Dr. DiCarlo is more of an expert in these kinds of things than the bass player of KISS?
I would absolutely say that. Yes.
Does everything that you read in this autopsy report seem to be realistically possible?
Absolutely.
And I know this is an impossible question to give me a yes or no to, but by what you see in that autopsy report, does it make you think that it was more of an accident? Can you determine at all whether drugs or alcohol played a part in this?
You really can't tell from the autopsy. You'll be able to obviously tell from the toxicology report. Him having a fall before the big fall, and that could have just been a slip, hit his head, didn't think it was a big deal, and then went on his merry way, and then fell again. And that was probably the start of everything. That probably was the start of a bleed, and didn't realize how severe that fall was, caused him to be dizzy and have problems afterwards. You see Anthony, I know you've probably seen this at accidents where people, they're fine. They get up, they walk around the accident sites, and then a lot of times they pass away within, the night, 24 hours, because they get up and walk around, think they're good. A lot of times people think this is no big deal, but they have an epidural bleed or something like that where they're having problems, and then they'll have a secondary injury, which sounds like this is exactly what happened. What I do have to say is, we forget because, they're still playing music. They're still out there being goofy kids. We forget their age. And I did do some research and statistics on falls in senior, these guys are senior citizens. Let's not forget they're senior citizens.
Hooligans, this is what we would define as a tidbit and a nugget. And she came with tidbits and nuggets.
Well, I had to, because we look up to these guys as like these rock stars, but they're senior citizens.
Right.
Senior citizens are awesome. I'm with them all the time in my job, and I love them. They're very active, but we have to remember you might act like you're 18 or 20, but your parts are still older. And when someone at this age falls or does something, it's much more serious than just, oh, look, I slipped, I bumped my head. Like, that's something you have to really, pursue and get checked out. So this was an intracranial hemorrhage. That's the official name for things. After a fall, the prevalence of these intracranial hemorrhages for someone over 65 years old is 70% will go to the emergency room for these kind of falls. And that's not falling down the stairs or anything like that. That's just a regular fall. The mortality rate, which is how many people die from these kind of things with these traumatic intracranial hemorrhages, can vary. But from a 2024 study, 8.5% of people who had these kind of falls ended up dying.
Which is a lot.
Yeah. So it shows you, people do die from falls. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing. Yeah. You hear that, Gene? People do die from falls.
And just from having intracranial hemorrhages for overall, not just from falls, but for other reasons, in people over 65 is 28%. That's not counting the people who have these kind of bleeds, have these kind of injuries, and have traumatic brain injuries after survival. That number I didn't look at, but if you survive these things, the detriment of your life and how your life changes is pretty significant. So this was kind of an interesting tidbit. Every second, an older person in the United States falls, and every 20 minutes, one of them dies.
Amazing, isn't it? It becomes even more amazing when you consider the fact that maybe a little over a month ago, the elderly senior citizen Gene Simmons crashed his car and attributed that crash to being dehydrated. So let me get this straight. So Ace, at 74 years old, it is impossible that to Gene Simmons, it is impossible that he fell down the stairs just because, well, he had terrible balance his entire life. I mean, I don't know if anything's been documented so much, but Gene Simmons can crash his car because he passed out from being dehydrated, and that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Could a 74-year-old male
Mm-hmm.
that by all accounts was relatively healthy, could a 74-year-old male that's relatively healthy become dehydrated and pass out and fall down the stairs?
Yeah.
And that fall could create a traumatic brain injury? And both of those things could happen without drugs and alcohol being in the picture?
Someone who's got severe dehydration can look like, and again, in your fields and what you've done, can look like they're drunk and they're not drunk. It's just because they're severely dehydrated as well. Again, not that we're saying that Ace was even looking this way.
No, I mean, look, I didn't investigate the scene. I mean, I had seen his home studio, but I have never looked for the staircase that he supposedly fell down. But in my guess, it's completely possible for anyone of any age to be walking downstairs and slip and fall. I would think that a 74-year-old man is more susceptible of falling down the stairs than a 30-year-old man.
Which just brings me to my other tidbit that I researched. Well, it actually wasn't even research. This almost happened around the same time Gene said said his comment. On December 4th, it was reported that Siena University lacrosse coach Liam Gleason died after falling down the stairs at home. 41 years old. Don't know. From what's reported, doesn't sound like anything. Doesn't sound like there was any alcohol involved in this as well. He was a beloved coach for lacrosse. He had 3 young kids, healthy gentleman. I mean, anything can happen. Stairs are pretty dangerous. It sounds goofy to say it, but they really are. He ended up being an organ donor for his and about 250. They do. I don't know if anyone knows this, but if you're an organ donor, they do. A lot of the hospitals will do the hero's last march or last walk, and they'll walk them to the OR for the harvesting of organs, and I think like 250 people showed up for the Walk a Hero
Really?
college. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that's very cool.
so it's very sad, but he was able to donate, which was wonderful, for people who need organs. But yeah, again, 41 years old. It's unfathomable to think. Big word, by the way, Aunt. Be impressed by that one. Uh,
That's a big word for the Hooligan Nation podcast. I
I'm
mean, I
shocked that
know
you
that it's not a big word for you, but
but it's unfathomable. That a 41-year-old can't survive that. To think of a 74-year-old and being questioned that you can't die from a fall just kind of amazes me.
right. And, when it comes to the fans, I think you have to give the fans a little bit of a pass because I know even for me, until Ace fell, not died, but until Ace fell, I never really looked at these guys as senior citizens.
Oh.
They're superheroes. And I think when it comes to how most people see them most of the time, more in Gene's case than Ace's case, but you see him in makeup on stage doing superhero type things. I think you lose sight that Gene Simmons is 76 years old. Now, that's not to say that he can't do those things, but it is to say that he's more susceptible at 76 years old, just like Ace Frehley was more susceptible at 74 years old, for these kinds of things to be more traumatic than a 20, 30, or 40-year-old. And you just brought up the fact that sometimes in a 40-something-year-old, it can be as traumatic as somebody in their 70s or 80s. So it's completely possible. Okay, I'm going to read Gene's apology as soon as I find it in my 37 tabs. So Gene's apology, which was put out on his X account a couple days ago, was on reflection, I was wrong for using the words I used. I humbly apologize. My hand to God, I didn't intend to hurt Ace or his legacy. But upon rereading my words, I see how it hurt everyone. Again, I apologize. I've always loved Ace. Always. So as a KISS fan, how you feel about the apology?
A little too late. The words shouldn't have come out of his mouth in the first place. Now he's just saving face. Those words can't be taken back. Monique, his daughter, and all his fans all heard those words in the period that is so, you're so grief stricken. It takes a while to get over. You're never gonna get over it, the death, and especially the traumatic nature of it. But those words aren't going to make up for what he said.
So I have a couple issues with all of this, but with Gene's apology. I think most KISS fans will get over it. And part of the reason why they'll get over it is, number one, and it is important, Gene did apologize.
Yeah, he did.
Is it real? Is he saving face? No one's ever going to know but Gene. But the damage that he did to Ace's daughter is probably for me, is the unforgivable part. Like the rest of us, at some point will move on. And, I would hope that most KISS fans can separate the band from the people in the band. Your brother and I discuss this all the time. We think Roger Waters is a disgusting human being for what he said about Ozzy. But I still like Pink Floyd. I still listen to Pink Floyd music. I just don't like Roger Waters as a human being. I won't go that far with Gene, but I won't give Gene a pass on this one. He's gonna pay. He paid a price, and he's going to continue, I think, to pay a price, because even after the apology, KISS fans are pissed. Like, I mean, they're out of control pissed. Like, if you go on these message boards and these social media groups, woohoo, I would venture to guess 80, 90% of the KISS fans out there are against Gene on this one. There are a few that agree with him and have thrown Ace under the bus and said, oh, he was definitely drunk. I had some guy, I didn't have, but I read some guy's post on a social media group that said that the toxicology report came out and Ace was on drugs and Ace was drunk. Well, the toxicology report did not come out. So obviously, that keyboard warrior was making it up. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this segment is for all the KISS fans out there, make sure that the information is accurate before you jump on someone's wagon that's definitely missing a wheel or two. Now, what you think of Gene, that's your business. There is most definitely a huge fallout from the fans. There is definitely damage that has been done to his daughter. I mean, I saw some little video clips from the medal ceremony at the White House and saw some still pictures. And man, you can tell the pain on her face. Like, I'm not going to say she didn't want to be there, but man, it looked like she was hurting while she was there. And you, instead of doing nothing, which would have been okay, or helping her through the process, which would have been the right thing to do, you decided to give an interview with the New York Post and throw her recently dead father under the bus repeatedly with absolutely no information that even implies alcohol or drug usage.
You know, we talked about this before. It was just Gene being, oh, I'm getting this award. Oh, I'm speaking for the Senate. No one's talking about me. Talk about me. Talk about me. It was just an attention-seeking ploy in my eyes, because Ace is obviously getting a lot of attention, but it's not the attention you want, right? It's just, he passed away. This is sad, but there's this outpouring of love. I'm sure Vegas, it was just this outpouring of love for.
Oh, it was over the top and completely worthy of what Ace Frehley gave to the fans.
Right. So I just feel like Gene was going, but no one's talking about me, and I got all this exciting stuff going on, and they're just going to talk about Ace and the Kennedy Center. They're going to be talking about how's getting this award without Ace there, and it's like, I just need that. I need that attention. So he had to throw something at him.
Look, we've said this on this podcast numerous times before. All four of these guys, and you got to be fair with this stuff. All four of these guys have said stupid things. And they've done stupid things. Yep. But I watched a red carpet interview with Peter Criss where he was asked about Ace Frehley not being there. And he said, we miss him, we love him, and we wish he was here. Done.
Perfect.
That's all Gene Simmons had to say.
All need to be said.
That's it. I tend to agree with what you just said, that it's the look at me thing. And you would think after 52 years, 52 years at this point, that Gene Simmons would be okay with how many people have looked at him on a constant basis. That even if that's the reason why he said what he said, he just give Ace the spotlight for something. I mean, when it came to Vegas, I don't think they gave Ace anything. The fans took it.
Right.
That's what happened. I mean, Thursday night was supposed to be a KISS Cruise pre-party. It was not run by the KISS Corporation. I'm sure it was okayed by the KISS Corporation, but it wasn't run by them. It was run by KISS Cancer Goodbye and KISS Army Spain. And once Ace died, they turned that into an Ace Frehley tribute night. And it was arguably the best part of the entire weekend. It was most definitely run the best out of the whole weekend. They did not leave any stone unturned. They dotted every I, they crossed every T. They like, I'm on record as saying that they did a great job, but the fans also did. One of the things they put out, Kiss Cancer Goodbye and Kiss Army Spain put this thing out saying everybody should wear an Ace Frehley shirt. And I couldn't believe it when I walked through the door. It was 85, 90% were wearing Ace Frehley shirts. I mean, it was like a fashion show for Kiss fans. People are walking around like, oh, I like your shirt. Oh, I like yours too. And you saw some doubles and some triples, but for the most part, like, people went out of their way to find an original Ace Frehley shirt. Like, that was all fan driven.
Yeah.
You know, Paul Stanley got up there on Friday afternoon before the acoustic set. They did a moment of silence. He said some nice things. It wasn't big. It wasn't extravagant. It didn't need to be. After he did that on Friday, between Thursday night and Friday afternoon, I was good. I looked over at your brother and I said, that's exactly what he needed to do. We're good.
Yeah.
Problem is, these guys can't shut their mouth. They can't just let it go there. They got to keep going. And another thing that drives me insane, Gene keeps bringing up he didn't live long enough for the Kennedy Center honors. Who cares? We don't care. I would prefer Ace still be here and Kiss didn't get the Kennedy Center honors.
Right.
Why can celebrities like Gene Simmons not understand the way the real world works?
Yes.
Like, we don't even know. I know it's a great honor, but other than that, who cares?
Yeah.
This is a human being's life. The fact that it's Ace Frehley, lead guitarist for Kiss, doesn't really matter. It's a human being's life, and you're talking about it like it's a commodity.
Right.
That tells me you've lost grip on the world in reality. And I think his legacy and Kiss's legacy is going to pay for it for a while. And it might be a long while. And I think the thing that pisses me off the most is the damage that he did to Ace's daughter.
Yeah, that pisses me off.
But what pisses me off second most is the message that he sent to those Kiss fans that are struggling or have struggled with addiction. You are pretty much telling them the complete opposite of what we need to be telling them in 2025. We have changed the way as a society as that we deal with this. You have to keep encouraging them. You have to keep helping them. You have to let them fall down repeatedly until they finally get it through their head that it's time to do the work. Those that do the work seem to be the ones that can dig themselves out of the hole. Those that don't want to do the work keep falling back in the hole. Well, Gene just threw a large group of his fan base back in the hole, I think. Like, and some of these people actually listen to him. Mm-hmm. It just makes me wonder how many fans are sitting there like, oh, well, Ace fell off the wagon, so I should be prepared to fall off the wagon, or it's okay that I fell off the wagon. When that's not the way we're dealing with addiction today, and thank God, because historically, we have all the numbers to show that the war didn't work. Throwing them in jail didn't work. You want to throw the dealers in jail? I got you. You want to throw the suppliers in jail? I got you. I'm with you. The cartels, I'm 100% with you. If they go as the addict, if they go and get caught buying, I'm okay with it. But you are throwing these people with addiction in jails, and I worked in a jail. Most jails are not giving them the things that they need to climb their way out of addiction. Prison and jails are for punishment. They are not for rehabilitation. And any politician in this country can get on camera and say whatever they want. Any jail warden, any high-ranking law enforcement official can come on the TV and say whatever they want to say. They're wrong. And I saw it firsthand. Jails are for punishment. They're not for rehabilitation. So we started to change our ways in the early 2000s when the opioid epidemic started, that we need to start treating these people like victims and not like criminals, because they're not criminals. They don't want to be criminals.
They want to be being an addict, most of them.
Their body is telling them that they need something that they can't legally get. Now, as I said in the beginning, it's self-inflicted 90% of the time. But once they're at that point, like, we need to do our part as a society to try to help them. Gene set us back 10 years because of how big of a public figure he is, how big the KISS Army is, and quite honestly, not everybody in the KISS Army has the same IQ. Some of these people listen to what Gene has to say and believes it. And he has no formal education, no formal experience to even speak about addiction, let alone fall victims. I'm not a doctor, but falling down the stairs? Yes, Gene, falling down the stairs. It's the same kind of thing. And just because he fell down the stairs, that means that he was drunk or high. That's the only way. I mean, look, I don't think this of Gene, but Gene has written or sang so many songs about being a pedophile. Does that make Gene Simmons a pedophile? I mean, I'm 93, she's 16. Christine's 16. Christine's 16 is a pedophile song.
Yeah.
In 2025, it's a pedophile song. In the 1970s, it was tolerated.
Right.
But in 2025, does that make Gene Simmons a pedophile because he sang a song about it? Just because Ace Frehley was an alcoholic, does that mean that he fell off the wagon and that's how he fell down the stairs? I mean, if we're going to come to assumptions, I think that's is a legitimate assumption as anything else. So Ace got drunk and fell down the stairs, and that's what killed him. It's a shame. You reap what you sow. Gene Simmons sings about being a pedophile, so Gene Simmons is a pedophile. There you go, Gene. I can do the same thing. My platform's a little smaller than his, but I could do the same thing. And let me be clear, I don't think Gene's a pedophile. And I also understand the difference between the 70s and the 2020s. We're much more politically correct today. But that's kind of where I stand with that. Do you have anything else that you would like to share?
Just on that notion, again, like what you said, just to reiterate it, people that are addicts, people who are clinging on to sobriety and working it so hard, and knowing people that have worked on their sobriety their whole life, it's like it's a treasure when they actually hold on to it, and we know this for a fact. And it's like, I just want to apologize for people who are holding on to sobriety to think that that you can't be sober, and that if there is an accident that it has to be because you screwed up somehow and fell off the wagon, like you said. So that's just upsetting to me too. So I hope the hooligans out there that have ever struggled doesn't see this, and KISS fans out there that's ever struggled with addiction doesn't think that sobriety is not something they can hold on to for their lifetime, and that, and that people people always look at them that they're going to screw up and fall off the wagon, because it's not true. There's people out there that always will have faith in them.
Sobriety, in my experience, sobriety 100% is attainable.
Absolutely.
I have dealt with some of the worst addicts that have been able to get clean. I'm talking about 80 bags of heroin a day. 80 bags of heroin a day.
I can't even imagine that.
From a 90-pound, 18-year-old girl that I still know her name in this absent-minded brain 30 years later. She got clean. So it's 100% attainable. You have to want it. There has to be things in place to help you. It has to be available, and you have to be surrounded by people that are willing to encourage you and help you get there. You hear that, Gene? Where were you and what were you doing when Ace was trying to get sober? You were probably bad-mouthing him.
Right.
And after his death, which was the biggest mistake, you continued to badmouth him. So I'm pretty sure this applies. Gene, you reap what you sow. If you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction, it is a treatable disease. Addiction is a disease, not a weakness, and treatment works. We, the Hooligan Nation, want to encourage you to find help, and we as a community will support you through it, because you don't have to do this alone. Ace became sober in 2006, and if Ace can do it, so can you. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button, just like our little angel right there, and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button, just like our little angel right there, so you don't miss any future episodes. And check out these episodes right here. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us. And don't forget, we should all lead with love and take care of each other. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.